What's up guys, Captain Trucker here. Thanks for coming back to the channel. In this video I want to talk about the first time I went to the Philippines and the many trips thereafter and what brought me out there and what I had to do. So yeah, many years ago, I went to the Philippines for the first time and I had absolutely no money. I didn't know anybody there. I knew no foreigners. I didn't even know any Filipinos, really. I just been talking to my girlfriend and I decided to go out there with absolutely nothing. I had like $500 in my pocket. And basically the first month I was there, I got my girlfriend pregnant. So when I left the Philippines, because I only stayed like a month the first time, I was sleeping in my car in the San Diego area doing like local food deliveries, and I found out that she was pregnant. And I was like, oh wow, well that's a pleasant surprise. So that's cool. But then I had another dilemma because I was sort of like between careers, and like I said at the time I was broke. So let me back up before that. So this is when I was about 34 years old. So between ages like 28 and 33 or something, I was kind of in a really bad place in life. Not like a midlife crisis, but it was just a really dark period in my journey on Earth. I sort of, well, it's a long story, but I ended up kind of falling on really hard times. I mean, I was sleeping on streets at some points, living in my car, stuff like that. Kind of between careers, like I said, and yeah, that was a rough time. But anyway, so I thought I'd be a good candidate to go out to the Philippines. No, but seriously, so I get back to San Diego and I realize, my God, I really got to get a career again. And I'm sleeping in the truck stop one night, sleeping in my car, and I saw these big semi trucks pull in, and I thought to myself, it was like an epiphany at that moment. I said, that's what I got to do, because I like to drive. I know I can drive long distance, and I spend a lot of time sleeping in the car. I thought to myself, I got to become an over-the-road, long-haul truck driver. And so I did. I went to the Starbucks and studied for my permit, and like 3 weeks later, I got accepted to go to this school at a company, and they trained me to get my CDL and all that. So anyway, long story short on that, my girlfriend's pregnant. I'm working over the road, and that year I think I came back to the Philippines 2 or 3 times. And so it became this whole process of constantly working and going back and forth for years, for months and weeks, and a very long time. But I'm pleased to say, after all this time, I'm finally building a decent, nice house for my son and his mother. But yeah, it took a while to get there. It wasn't easy. I mean, even in the Philippines, like, building houses costs money, and it's a lot of cash. By the way, I'm in Idaho. Check out these mountains. There's still snow on top of the mountains, and we're in summertime, I think, technically, almost summertime. But anyway, so yeah, I was really glad to do that. I started investing in the stock market more, kind of made some good decisions on individual stocks and stuff like that. But the reason I'm saying that is because there's a lot of people out there, a lot of like older men who want to move to the Philippines, or they want to move anywhere. They want to start their life over, and many of them, for different reasons, they never sort of make the move or pull the trigger, if you will. And there's different reasons for that. I think sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's comfortability. We do tend to be creatures of habit. And sometimes it could be finances. And sometimes it can be like finances and materialism, because people get so darn comfortable in their routines, and combined with all those things I just said, they end up getting stuck. They end up not making decisions, and they end up staying where they are. And so you got to remember that there's always ways to start your life over, because especially when you're older, men get beaten down. I mean, life's hard. By age 60 or 50s, 70s, you've probably been through divorces, you've been through ups and downs in life, probably midlife crisis at some point, maybe. And, you know, life kind of beats you up at that point. And, you know, maybe you feel like you can't start over, but you can. And that's one of the coolest things about the Filipino culture and the Philippines itself, is they will welcome you, and they give people second chances. They give them third chances at life, okay? And you just got to make the move. I mean, this is why I was always talking about minimalism, you know, weeks ago on the channel, because for people who have never lived in those countries, they may think they're going to be able to maintain the same bougie material lifestyle off, like, say, their Social Security, and that's likely not going to happen. And so I've always been recommending, you know, like, minimalism. And that's why I was always saying, like, even sleeping in your car for some people can be an option, just to train yourself to start living minimally. But yeah, I mean, the only way we grow in life, not the only way, one of the ways we grow in life is by motion, by movement, by traveling. And people have said this, and I totally agree. I think traveling is one of the best educations and one of the best things to develop ourselves as a person, spiritually, mentally. You learn so much from traveling. And like I said, some people get so conditioned to stay in one spot, if you will, like their apartment or their house. They don't want to sell their cars or their refrigerator. But once you just get that little spark going and you start moving, the rest will fall into place. But that being said, you know, you don't have to fear the Philippines, all right? I mean, we've all heard horror stories, and of course there's going to be scammers in any populations, and yes, some of them crawl and prowl the dating sites, but the majority of Filipinos are great people, and they make the culture of that people are great. And there's many great women out there, okay? But yeah, you got to be a little bit educated and make the right decisions, okay? And I told this story about my mother. Sorry, I got some wind here. You know, my mother went to Korea on her own with 2 kids who were like, my sister was 7, my other sister was 3, I think. And my mother was like 27, meeting her husband out there at the time. She traveled out there alone with 2 kids, and she couldn't live on the military base, so my mother had to provide her own accommodations. And so she ended up living with the locals, like a Korean lifestyle, like basically in a hut for like a year. And it, you know, it changed her life. She says it really changed her just outlook on many things. And the reason I'm saying that is, like, you know, if my mother can do that with 2 kids, you know, some of you retirees, there's really no excuse. I mean, especially, you know, being an older man and you already have some savings and stuff, there's ways, you already have a lot going for you. And you're not alone either, because there's always people that can help you. There's other expats in the community in the Philippines. There's other expat vloggers you can talk to. There's even people that can meet you at the airport. So you're never alone. And another thing that happens though is, like, some expats that move out there is they tend to isolate themselves. Maybe they're running away from, you know, stuff in their past and their own culture and stuff, and they just don't want to deal with their own countrymen anymore. And you know, isolation as an expat or as a foreigner in these countries is really, it's not a wise decision. You know, like, you don't want to be a king on the hill type of thing and isolate yourself in a house, because, you know, expats can face different issues, and people need friends. You always want to have friends, not just Filipino friends, but other foreigners as well. Okay, and you know, maybe if your first relationship or your first shot at it wasn't successful, there's always other opportunities. So we can't just accept, you know, trying things 1 or 2 times in life and giving up, because that's what happens over time with a lot of people. That's what happens in life, especially if you've had success at some point, or if you've been wealthy, or you're on top of your game, and then, you know, people go through stuff and maybe they lose it all, and some people just give up. Some people don't come back, but there's always hope. You know, there's always new beginnings. And like I said, the Philippines for many of you men is like the land of new beginnings, okay? So don't blow your second and third chance at life, and don't be afraid to go out there, okay? All right, it's Captain Trucker. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate the subscribers, and I appreciate all the other people watching. Thank you so much, and look forward to your comments. Be well, guys. Bye-bye.